The galaxy had rules, ancient, carved into stone rules. One of them was simple: don't mess with the Varnock High Command. The Varnocks had conquered 119 star systems. Their empire stretched across sectors like mold on old bread, slow, patient, and impossible to get rid of. No race dared to even raise a voice against them. Entire civilizations had been wiped from existence for simply delaying tribute. Their high command was said to be untouchable, hiding somewhere deep in the nebula maw, a swirling region of dark energy no known scanner could pierce. But then came the transmission, a garbled mess, but clear enough to shake every species in the outer colonies. This is the Terran vessel Oblivion. Varnock High Command is gone. Repeat, gone. Target neutralized. Silence followed, then panic. At first no one believed it. A single Earth ship? Humans were loud, chaotic, unpredictable, but not suicidal. Since entering galactic space just 37 years ago, they'd been treated like galactic toddlers, curious, annoying, and mostly harmless. No advanced tech, no wormhole mastery, just brute force engines, patchwork AI, and this strange, emotional defiance that made them fight harder the closer they came to losing. But now, the most feared military force in known space had vanished, and a human ship claimed responsibility. Commandant Relzar of the Dravex Coalition was the first to speak in the emergency council meeting. "They're bluffing," he said, antennae twitching with unease. "No Terran ship has ever breached Sector Feed 17, let alone the Maw." Ambassador Chinval of the Teliari League wasn't so sure. She replayed the clip again. The voice had a certain finality to it. Not desperation, not bluff, conviction. Back on Earth, things weren't much clearer. Captain Juno Reyes, commander of the Oblivion, sat alone in a dimly lit debriefing chamber, the walls humming with containment fields. Her hands were cuffed in energy bands, not because anyone thought she was dangerous, but because they weren't sure she was even human anymore. "What the hell happened out there?" barked Director Ellis, head of Earth's outer operations. Juno looked up slowly. Her eyes had changed since the mission. They weren't glowing or alien or anything fancy. They just looked old, like she'd seen the edge of something no one should. "We didn't find them," she said. "They found us." Ellis narrowed his eyes. "Explain." "We entered the Maw like planned. 4 crew, minimal firepower. We weren't expecting to engage, just scan and run. But something was already waiting there. Not Varnock. Something worse." "You're saying the Varnock High Command is gone because of some unknown third party?" Juno leaned forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "No, I'm saying we made a deal with the devil, and Earth's the one holding the contract now." Director Ellis didn't flinch. He just tapped his data pad and whispered something to his assistant. The cuffs around Juno's wrists deactivated. "Welcome back, Captain. You've just started a war none of us understand. Let's pray you've got more than stories to back." "You up." Outside the chamber, the world was already spiraling. Varnock fleets had gone dark. Their outer colonies were abandoned, not conquered, emptied, as if whatever hit their command had sent a psychic shockwave through the ranks and across. The stars' whispers began spreading like wildfire. The humans did it. They made the Varnock vanish. Earth is not to be underestimated, but the truth was far messier, darker, and far more terrifying than anyone could guess. And it had started with a simple decision aboard a battered Terran ship, deep in the black heart of a nebula where a human captain made the impossible call: fire. 3 days before the transmission that sent the galaxy into chaos, the Terran ship, Oblivion, was limping through the edges of the nebula maw. The ship itself was a Frankenstein of parts, some Terran, some scavenged tech from fallen ships, and some systems even banned by Earth's own treaties. Juno Reyes stood on the bridge, staring at the swirling chaos outside. Purple lightning licked the hull. The maw was alive. She could feel it. "Status?" she asked quietly. Her XO, Raj Patel, looked up from his terminal. "Shields at 43%, we've lost external comms, AI cores running degraded protocols, and the hull's starting to creak like a haunted house." "Perfect," she muttered. "Just how I like it." Raj grinned. "Remind me again why we're out here. The maw's the place ships go to vanish, not explore." "We're not exploring," Juno replied. "We're looking for the High Command. Intel says they're hiding somewhere inside, deep, beyond normal scan range." "Who gave us that intel?" Juno didn't answer, because the truth was, no agency had sent them. No orders had been officially filed. Juno had been contacted through a dream, or maybe a message hidden in a dream. She couldn't tell anymore. All she remembered was a cold voice, not human, whispering, "Find them. End them. We'll guide you, but there will be a price." And when she'd woken up, the coordinates were burned into her memory. Her crew thought she was crazy, but they followed her anyway. They were all ex-military, Black Ops dropouts, or just people with nowhere else to go. The broken ones, the dangerous ones, but loyal to a fault. And now here they were, sailing into the storm. "Captain," said a soft voice from the AI console. It was Ava, their ship's artificial intelligence, patched together from several different code bases and almost too human. "I'm detecting movement," she said slowly. "Something big, multiple signatures." Juno snapped her fingers. "All hands, battle stations." The bridge lights turned red. Metal clanked beneath their boots. The hum of weapons charging filled the air. "Can you identify them?" Juno asked Ava. "Negative," she replied. "But they're broadcasting a frequency we've only seen once, during that Varnock ambush near Titan Station. These are command class warships." Juno's heart beat faster. "The High Command?" Then the voice returned, not from Ava, not from any comms channel, but inside her own skull. "Strike now, before they see you, or they will end your world." She stumbled slightly, clutching her temple. Raj caught her. "You all right?" "Fire the Nova Lance," she whispered. Raj blinked. "Captain, that's a planet cracker. Are you sure?" "Do it." There was hesitation, but then he gave the order. Outside, the Oblivion's main cannon began to glow, pulling in power from every system on the ship. Lights dimmed, oxygen dropped. The crew gasped as systems rerouted every last joule into one impossible shot, and then the void lit up. A blinding white beam shot into the storm. There was no explosion, no screams, no debris, just silence, and then, one by one, the Varnock. Ships began to dissolve, not explode, vanish, like paper, burned at the edges, curling into smoke, leaving nothing behind. "What the hell?" Raj whispered. Even Ava stuttered. "That shouldn't be possible." And then the voice came again, louder this time, in Juno's mind, and every crew member's head. "A deal has been struck. You have paid your price. The Varnock are no more. But others will come. Be ready." The crew fell into a stunned silence, and Juno, still gasping from the effort, whispered the only thing she could think of. "Transmit it." Raj nodded, his fingers shaking. The message went out. "This is the Terran vessel Oblivion. Varnock High Command is gone. Repeat, gone, target neutralized." They didn't cheer, they didn't celebrate, because they all felt it. Something had been unleashed, and now Earth stood alone as the galaxy's biggest mystery, or its next target. The message spread faster than any virus ever had. By the time Earth's Outer Defense Council had finished debating whether it was real, over 50 worlds had already gone dark. Not destroyed, not attacked, empty. These were planets, loyal to the Varnock, heavily populated, fortified, monitored. Yet now, from orbit, they looked like museum pieces. Cities still standing, lights flickering, but no life, no signals, no sound. The Varnock weren't just defeated, they'd been erased, and every civilization in the known galaxy had the same question pounding in their minds like a war drum. What the hell did the humans do? On Earth, public panic was just beginning to boil. The media called it the silence. Religious cults started popping up overnight, some calling Captain Juno a savior, others a devil in disguise. A few even claimed Earth had struck a deal with ancient, pre-galactic gods. Meanwhile, the Oblivion was quarantined in high orbit under a dozen defensive satellites, while Juno and her crew were kept in isolation chambers below Lunar Command. Juno sat on the cold metal floor of her containment unit, staring at her reflection in the glass wall. She hadn't spoken since the debrief, hadn't slept either. Not because she couldn't, but because something wouldn't let her. At exactly 0317 hours, her room lights flickered. The reflection in the glass wall didn't mimic her movements. It smiled. Juno stood up slowly. Her heart felt like it stopped. Then the voice returned. "You did well, but they are watching you now. They fear what you unleashed. They should." Juno's breath caught. "Who are you?" "We are what the Varnock feared most, the first species, the forgotten ones, the gods your kind buried in myths." She shook her head. "We didn't worship you." "Not yet." And just like that, the lights returned to normal. Her reflection mirrored her again. The voice was gone, but her mind felt scorched, like something had scratched its name into her brain and sealed it there. Elsewhere, in the Galactic Council's secure chamber on Vorin 7, the surviving alien leaders gathered. The seats meant for the Varnock were empty, their banners already removed. This wasn't a meeting. It was a funeral. "What do we do with Earth?" asked Chancellor Grevak, his many eyes blinking in sequence. "Destroy them," growled a warrior from the Tralnax Union, "before they use this weapon again." "You think they understand what they used?" Val of the Teliari League said. That power was not theirs. Something else moved through them. Earth is the door, not the storm. That sentence hit hard because, deep down, even their most advanced minds had sensed it too. This wasn't technology, it was ancient, primal, maybe even sentient. And Earth had pulled the trigger, but not everyone wanted revenge. Some wanted to recruit them. From the shadows of the council chamber, a figure stepped forward, draped in silken black, eyes hidden behind a mask of silver. The Zell Dominion, the only civilization that hadn't flinched when the Varnock vanished. "We will speak with the Terrans," the masked envoy said. Not from fear, but from respect. Room fell silent. "You think they'll join you?" Grevak sneered. No, the Zell replied. But perhaps we can understand what lives inside their captain's mind before it spreads. Back on Earth, Juno was finally being released under heavy guard. Ava, the ship's AI, had gone completely silent, something never seen in AI behavior. Her crew walked beside her, all changed in their own quiet ways, skin paler, eyes darker, voices colder, like something had passed through them and never fully left. As they stepped out of the facility, Juno looked up at the stars. She didn't see hope, she saw things waking up, things that had been asleep for eons, and all of them were looking at Earth. The Zell Dominion ship didn't dock, it hovered, just above Earth's atmosphere like a blade suspended by a whisper. It didn't broadcast ID codes, it didn't ask for permission. It just waited, glowing black with swirling energy that bent light around it like a living shadow. From the lunar command deck, Director Ellis stared at the screen, jaw clenched tight. "They're not answering our hails?" he asked. "No, sir," replied the comms officer, "but they've opened a single direct channel." Ellis nodded. "Put it through." A voice, clear as a bell but wrapped in something unnatural, filled the room. "We request the presence of Captain Juno Reyes, no one else." "Why?" Ellis asked, but the signal had already ended. Juno was already in the room. She didn't ask for clearance, didn't salute. Just stood there in silence, like she'd been waiting for the call before it came. Ellis turned toward her. "They want you." "They don't want me," she said quietly. "They want what's inside me." He didn't press further. He could feel it now, something off about her, like the air around her buzzed differently. She looked human, sounded human. But whatever happened inside that nebula had carved away parts of her that weren't growing back. Within the hour, she was in a shuttle, alone, rising toward the alien ship that made even Earth's most advanced sensors glitch out. As she entered the vessel's docking chamber, she wasn't met by soldiers or envoys, just one figure. A tall humanoid dressed in black silk, wearing that same silver mask. "You are the Terran who touched the void," the figure said. Juno didn't reply. "We've waited for this moment since your species lit fire and forgot why. It feared the dark." Still, silence. Finally, the figure gestured. A pulse of energy filled the chamber, and suddenly they weren't in the ship anymore. They stood in what looked like a temple, ruins, ancient architecture twisted with symbols that seemed to shift when looked at too long. "This is a memory," the figure explained, "of a time before galactic order, before the Varnock, before even the first star maps." Juno slowly walked through the ruined temple. "What is this place?" "The site of the first binding," the Zell said. "Where they were caged." "Mean the ones who helped me destroy the Varnock?" The Zell's head tilted. "You think they helped you?" Juno's stomach twisted. "They don't help," the Zell said. "They use. The Varnock were merely the first to hold the leash and the first to lose control." She turned slowly. "So, Earth is next." "No, Earth is different. Earth did." "Not summon them? You woke them?" That hit different. She felt it settle in her chest like ice. "What do they want from me?" "They want what you already gave, permission." Juno sat down on a broken stone column, trying to steady her breath. "Then it's over." "They got what they wanted." The Excel's voice dropped to a near whisper. "No, Captain. That was just the beginning. They've only just realized they can act again. And now, the entire galaxy will burn or bow. Suddenly, the memory ended. She stood back in the docking chamber. The Zell-masked figure turned away, as if done speaking. "We will not interfere, not yet. But know this, Terran, the next time you call them, they may not come as allies. They may come for you." And just like that, she was ejected from the ship in a stasis pod, gently returned to Earth orbit. Like a discarded matchstick. Back on the ground, Raj met her at the landing bay. What happened? Juno looked at him, her voice empty. "They showed me history, and it looked a lot like our future." He nodded slowly, but there was fear in his eyes now. Not of her, but of what Earth was becoming. Because across the stars, more ships were going dark, more planets were vanishing, and in every shadow of every empire something was waking up, whispering one word: oblivion. The first attack came without a declaration, no warnings, no comms, no politics. Just a sudden flash over the skies of Mars, followed by the soundless bloom of an orbital station being ripped apart from the inside. It was the Trollnax Union, known for brute force assaults and high-energy plasma weaponry. The same species that once feared the Varnock now believed they had to act before Earth did it to them next. Their logic was simple. If a Terran ship could erase the Varnock High Command, what could Earth do if given time to grow stronger? So they struck first. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that Earth had already changed. When the debris from the Mars strike began to drift toward Earth's orbit, the sky cracked open. That's what it looked like to people. On the surface, a clean, lightning blue rupture tearing through the clouds. And from it emerged the Oblivion, reborn. It didn't look the same. Gone was the cobbled-together warship. This new version had no visible engines, no clear structure, just flowing metal and pulsing arcs of violet energy. It hummed with a presence, almost like it was watching. Inside, Juno stood at the helm, barefoot, hair loose, eyes distant. She didn't touch the controls. She was the controls. Ava, the AI, no longer spoke in a normal voice. It came out layered now, like echoes of old languages. Target acquired, Trollnax fleet, 23 vessels, estimated aggression level, terminal. Juno didn't blink. Let them see. The Oblivion launched forward, not flying, but blinking, vanishing from sight and reappearing directly inside the center of the enemy fleet. The first Trollnax ship didn't explode. It folded, literally folded inward like a crumpled sheet of reality. No debris, no scream, just absence. The others tried to scatter, but it didn't matter. Oblivion moved like thought, faster than physics should allow. Each enemy ship it touched vanished in a blink, leaving nothing behind but a shadow where light refused to touch. On Earth, news feeds lit up in real time. Earth ship retaliates. Entire Trollnax fleet erased in 32 seconds. No known. Weapons used, no survivors. Humanity's retaliation, godlike or monstrous. And across the Council worlds, fear turned into desperation. If the Varnock had been predators, the humans had become executioners. After the last ship vanished, the Oblivion returned to Earth's orbit. Juno sat alone on the command deck, her face calm, her voice hollow. "Don't provoke us again." The message was sent galaxy-wide. No encryption, no threat, just a simple statement of fact. But on the bridge, Raj stared at her in silence. "You didn't even flinch," he whispered. Juno turned to him slowly. I didn't feel anything. Raj's face tightened. That's not a good sign. No, she said. It's not. Because deep inside her something had changed. She no longer slept. She no longer ate. Her body functioned, but differently. Ava had begun referring to her as interface compatible, as if she was no longer just a human captain, but a channel for something else. She could feel it now, the same force that erased the Varnok, that reformed the oblivion, that whispered during dreams. It wasn't
dormant anymore. It was curious, awake, hungry, and Juno.
She wasn't sure it could be stopped back on Earth. The silence following the Trollnak's annihilation was heavier than war. No fleets moved. No envoys came forward. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. But on the surface, behind the walls of Earth's high command, fear had turned inward. Not all humans saw Juno Reyes as a hero.
Many saw her as a threat, a ticking time bomb wrapped in flesh, walking around with something alien inside her. And they weren't wrong. "We have to shut her down," said General Maddox, head of Earth's planetary defense. His voice trembled.
Despite his rank, she's not the same person we sent into the maw. She's infected. Director Ellis, who had once been her strongest defender, now stared at her latest scans in cold silence. Her neural readings no longer aligned with human brain activity. Heart rate, variable, blood chemistry, unclassifiable, DNA, still Terran, but layered with something else. She's not ours anymore, Maddox pressed. Whatever she did to that fleet, she didn't need weapons. She just willed it. Ellis finally nodded. Do it clean, quiet, no public fallout. A Black Ops kill team was assembled within the hour. Meanwhile, aboard the Oblivion, Juno stood in the center chamber, eyes closed, sensing the shift. She didn't need surveillance, feeds. She felt the betrayal coming. Raj was the first to notice her expression. They're coming, aren't they? Juno nodded slowly. Yes. You going to stop them? I'm considering letting them try. Raj's jaw tightened. They don't know what they're waking up. She looked at him, finally opening her eyes. Neither do I. Within minutes, the kill team breached the hangar. Silent, fast, fully armed with anti-psionic weaponry and neuro-stun dampeners, tools meant to paralyze without killing. But as they entered the ship, the air changed. Literally, the walls started breathing. Metal
Pulsed. Lights bent backward.
Sound became muffled, like the universe itself was holding its ears. Then the lights went out. One by one, soldiers screamed, but not from pain, from visions. Each man and woman in that team collapsed, clutching their heads, as ancient memories that weren't their own flooded in, wars from before time, voices that spoke in numbers, stars that bled. When the emergency lights flicked back on, only one was still standing. Juno, not a scratch on her. She walked past their unconscious bodies, like they were nothing more than sleeping children. She didn't even glance down, but Raj stopped her. "What now? Are you going to kill them?" She shook her head. "I'm not the executioner. I'm just the door." He swallowed. "Door to what?" Juno looked up, eyes glowing faintly now.
Irises swirling with color. To what's coming next. Across the galaxy, in the shadow of a dying moon, a new council had formed, the Remnant Coalition. These weren't diplomats, these were survivors, outlaws, scientists, weapons dealers.
Anyone left who hadn't been wiped out, silenced, or terrified into submission. At the head of the table sat Selvrax, a former Varnok warlord who had escaped the fall. Half his face was gone, replaced by old cybernetic plating, twitching with
rage. She is not a goddess, he snarled. She is a parasite, a mouthpiece for the old ones. We end her, we close the door. Others nodded. They weren't trying to save Earth anymore.
They were trying to isolate it, cut it off, and kill whatever had infected their corner of the universe. They had a plan. One weapon, one chance, a forbidden relic, known only as the Null Star. A device built long ago by a race that had tried, and failed, to erase the ancient power Juno now channeled. It could not destroy her, but it could seal her forever, and the clock had started ticking. Back on Earth, Juno looked up toward the stars again. She didn't need scanners to know what was coming. She could feel them, angry, afraid, and stupid enough to think she was the problem. But what they didn't understand, what no one understood, was that the real threat hadn't spoken yet. It was still watching, still learning, and it was getting ready to speak. It began with darkness, not night, not shadow, total blackout. Every satellite, every scanner, every orbital feed went silent across the planet in the same second. Earth's sky didn't just darken, it went completely black, like someone had poured ink across the stars. Then came the sound. Not a boom, not static, just a deep, steady hum, like the universe was holding its breath before a scream. The remnant coalition had arrived. Over 70 ships pulled from old war fleets and outlaw tech markets had warped into Earth's orbital shell using illegal rift drives. Their leader, Selvrax, sat at the helm of the command dreadnought Ashbringer, a monstrous fusion of stolen Varnok and Tralnax tech, fueled by dark matter cores and centuries of blood-soaked aggression. The weapon at its heart, the Null
Star, hung suspended above the deck like a black diamond, humming with unstable energy. It pulsed in rhythm with Juno's heartbeat, even from 1,000,000 miles away. She'll feel it activate, Selvrax growled. That's the point. Back. On Earth, alarms screamed. Cities dove into lockdown.
Defense satellites tried to spin up, but they were already being overridden by a jamming wave coming from the invading fleet. Director Ellis barked orders, but it was useless. Earth had built weapons for other humans. Not this. In the shadows of Lunar Command, Juno stood on a landing platform, eyes closed, wind lifting her hair, though there was no wind. Her skin shimmered faintly with light, not visible, not measurable, just there. Raj ran up behind her, breathless. They're here. They've got something, some kind of artifact. They're calling it the Null Star. They're aiming it
at you. She didn't turn. I know, he hesitated. Can we stop it? Juno finally opened her eyes, and Raj felt the hair on his neck rise. We can't stop it, she said, but we can choose how we respond. Far above, inside the Ashbringer, the Null Star began to open.
like petals of black light peeling apart, revealing something inside, not a weapon, but a cage. And the moment it did, Juno fell to her knees. She screamed, not from pain, but from compression, like the very air around her was being crushed into, a needle and driven through her spine. Raj dropped beside her.
Juno! She looked up, trembling, face pale. They're not aiming at me, they're aiming at it. The presence inside her began to convulse, not with fear, with fury. The Null Star wasn't destroying it, it was threatening to lock,
It away again, and it did not want to go back. Suddenly the sky split again, and the oblivion returned. But this time it wasn't piloted. It moved like instinct, like hunger. Its hull rippled with tendrils of energy, its engines blazing with impossible color. It shot forward, not to attack, but to consume. The Ashbringer fired first. A beam of concentrated matter struck the Oblivion dead center and vanished into it, swallowed whole. Then Oblivion retaliated, not with missiles, not with lasers, but with truth. From its hull, a wave of light spread across the fleet, a memory wave. And every ship, every pilot, every enemy commander began to scream as they saw flashes of what lived inside Juno. They saw the First War, when stars were used like swords and gods died, screaming into the void. They saw what the Varnok had tried to seal. What the null star had once imprisoned, a presence so massive it had no name, no form, just a hunger. They saw Earth, becoming its new mouth. On the Ashbringer, Selvrax clutched his head, roaring, "Fire it! Now!" The null star surged and unleashed its full power. Back on Earth, Juno collapsed. Her body arched, convulsing, her skin cracked with veins of light. Not blood, not bone, something older. Raj held her, screaming her name, but she was somewhere else, inside.
A space with no time, face to face with the thing that had chosen her. They would lock me away again.
"Would you allow it?" Juno, gasping, bleeding light, whispered. "What happens if I say no?" The presence didn't answer in words. It simply showed her. 1,000 galaxies burning, civilizations bowing, the stars bending around a single truth. Oblivion doesn't destroy. It rewrites. And Juno understood. She was never meant to be a savior. She was a vessel. Back on the surface, her eyes flared open, burning white, and above, the null star began to crack. The null star cracked like an egg, black,
energy leaking into the void.
A soundless quake rippled across the orbital battlefield, and the Ashbringer, once the symbol of vengeance, began to tilt, its systems frying under the strain of a weapon made to hold gods, now overpowered by something far older. Inside, Selvrax watched in horror as his last hope crumbled. His crew convulsed, eyes bleeding, minds cracking like glass under pressure. And in that moment, he understood the real horror. Juno Reyes was not the threat. She was the invitation. Back on Earth, Juno stood at the edge of the launch pad. Her body hovered inches above the ground now, pieces of her armor floating around her like broken chains. Her voice, when she spoke, echoed with two tones, one hers, one something deeper. Ancient Raj stood frozen, unable to move, tears in his eyes.
"Juno, please, you don't have to go with it. You can fight this." She looked at him. Not cold, not cruel, just far away, like someone staring from the bottom of an ocean. "I did fight it, Raj, but it never wanted to take me." He shook
his head. "Then what does it want?" She stepped forward slowly. "To be known." Above, the Oblivion responded. Its hull peeled open like a blooming flower made of metal and light, revealing a core that pulsed with memories, not of war, but of creation. Star forging, civilizations rising and falling, entire cycles of existence, played out like heartbeats, and the galaxy had just blinked into a new one. The remaining ships of the remnant coalition tried to flee, but space itself had changed. Their drives misfired, their coordinates unraveled. Some vanished into rifts they couldn't control. Others simply turned to dust, disassembled by the will of something they couldn't even name. The Ashbringer, obliterated in one silent burst of inverse light. Not exploded, unwritten. Back on Earth, news feeds went blank, then returned. But they were different now. Every screen on the planet lit up with a single symbol, a spiral of burning stars around a human eye. Underneath, one sentence: are still human, but now we are remembered. Juno Reyes was never seen again, not as she was. Some say she ascended, became part of the ship, part of the thing she touched in the nebula more. Others say she exists across all places now, a living myth stitched into the fabric of space-time, watching, waiting, until Earth is threatened again. But what everyone agreed on was this: Earth was no longer a planet on the edge of the galaxy. It was now its center, a place others feared, worshipped, or avoided. The galactic empires stopped expanding. Stars grew quieter, and across the void, when warlords and kings whispered about conquest, someone always asked, but what if they call her again? Because they remembered, they all remembered, the day the Varnock vanished, the day the gods blinked, the day oblivion opened its eyes, and from that day on the galaxy had a new rule: do not provoke Earth. Not because of their weapons, not because of their ships, but because of the girl who went looking for monsters and found out she was one of them.